Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Got Harem with Multiple Women's Part 6. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. Remember, right in the he said as he disappeared in a burst of speed, followed closely by Yugao who was currently screaming death threats. The just happened, although I can't deny that would be tempting, I'm sure she would be up for it. Naruto said, then once again paled as he felt ki rise up from behind him. Turning, Naruto saw another Yugao standing there. Shadow clone. Yugao nodded. Mercy. Sorry Naruto-kun, all out of mercy. What about a head start? 5 seconds. Good enough. Naruto said as he disappeared in a flash, making Yugao think he had mastered the Hiraishin. For any of you that don't get it, there was a guy who did something like this on national news a while back, YouTube it. The sound of steel clashing against steel could be heard coming from the new Uzumaki clan compound in the early morning hours as Itachi and Naruto faced off against each other in a friendly, sort of, spar. You're getting better Naruto-kun, even with my advanced Sharingan I have issues tracking your movements. A little faster and I won't be able to keep up with you. Itachi said as he and Naruto broke apart from their deadlock. Speed alone won't be enough to defeat someone with the Rinnegan though, you need to continue training if you wish to defeat Pain. Even if you defeat Pain you still have Toby to worry about. I was never able to watch him fight but I am certain that his Sharingan is more advanced than mine, especially if he was able to control the Kyuubi before it was sealed into you. Straightening up from his fighting stance, Naruto glanced towards the older Uchiha before nodding his head. Yay. According to the intel you gave, Akatsuki will be looking to capturing me last. That should give me more than enough time to become strong enough to fight Pain and the masked Uchiha. Naruto replied. Even if they come after me a little earlier, I find it hard to believe that Pain or Toby will be coming after me in person, not until I eliminate a few of their other members first. Agreeing with the blonde Uzumaki, Itachi also got out of his combat stance as slow clapping was heard from the side of the training ground. Looking towards the sound of the applause both Naruto and Itachi spotted Yugao making her way to the center of the clearing. Excellent spar Naruto-kun, even though I know how strong you are it is still surprising seeing someone able to keep up with Itachi. Itachi was my team leader when I first joined ANBU. I was always amazed at how strong he was even though he was still so young. Yugao said with a smile as she looked between the two ex-ANBU members. I suppose I shouldn't be too surprised though, you managed to earn a mask that neither Itachi or Kakashi could earn. Thanks Yugao-chan. Hey, isn't Kurenai-sensei supposed to be stopping by later this morning for training sessions? Naruto asked. Receiving a nod from Yugao he adopted a thoughtful look before glancing towards Itachi. Hey, Itachi. Yes Naruto-kun. Itachi asked. Would you mind helping me train Kurenai-sensei? I'm not good at doing anything other than dispelling genjutsu, so while I can train her to help her stamina, strength, taijutsu, ninjutsu, and possibly kenjutsu, I wouldn't be able to help her train further in genjutsu. While she is Konoha's resident genjutsu expert, I'm sure you of all people would be able to help her become stronger in that area. Naruto asked, earning a thoughtful look from Itachi for a few moments before nodding his head. I'll help Naruto-kun, call it a favor for when I fought her 3 years ago. Itachi replied, earning a nod from Naruto and Yugao. You two should go wash up before Kurenai-chan gets here, you both stink from this morning's training. Yugao said, earning a slight pout from Naruto and a blank look from Itachi. I'll have breakfast ready for both of you when you are done, don't worry Naruto-kun. Pouting for a few more moments, Naruto suddenly smiled before using a shunshin to close the distance between himself and Yugao. Using her momentary shock to his advantage he wrapped his arms around her waist before picking her up in a hug and kissing her on the lips before dropping her back down and disappearing into his house, leaving a blushing Yugao and slightly smirking Itachi behind. Few hours later, after cleaning himself off and eating breakfast with Yugao and Itachi, Naruto spent the next few hours going through some of his father's sealing notes. Already being an accomplished sealer, Naruto knew a lot about the basic and more advanced Namikaze and Uzumaki clan seals, and was starting to think about ways to infuse both of the clan's methods into one single set of seals. Letting out a frustrated sigh, Naruto closed the scroll he was reading before feeling a hand land on his shoulder. Looking up, he saw Yugao looking at the notes he had spread across the table. "What are you doing, Naruto-kun?" Yugao asked. After having met Naruto in ANBU, Yugao took an interest in learning methods beyond the basic sealing scroll and exploding tag. "I'm trying to figure out a way to combine my father's clan's sealing methods with my mother's. I do not want the Namikaze sealing methods to be lost or forgotten, but I would like to unite the sealing methods as I have the clans. That would make sealing easier to learn for future generations of the clan," Naruto explained, earning a nod from Yugao. "It looks like you are having troubles with that though. Maybe you should try asking Jiraiya-sama to help," Yugao suggested. "Yay, that old perv would probably help if I asked, as long as he doesn't try to peek on you like he did last time he helped me train," Naruto said. "I'll worry about that later though. Kurenai-sensei should be here pretty soon and I need to get a few things ready before she does." Yay. He should have learned after the last time he tried, but I wouldn't put it past him to do something like that again. From what you told me, Tsunade almost killed him for peeking on her and he still tries," she said with a sigh. "But you are right, we can worry about that another time. I'll go show Kurenai-chan in so that she doesn't try to kill Itachi when she sees him." "Good thinking," Naruto replied, before the two split off to get things ready for Kurenai's training session. Even though Tsunade announced Itachi's return to the village, she might still be a little on edge around him. Just stick around to help her keep her relax. You know her better than I do, so she would probably feel better with you around. Thinking about Tsunade's announcement of Itachi's return and his status as a clan head brought an amused smile to Naruto's face. It had been less than pretty. The villagers had been in an uproar over the older Uchiha's return, calling for his execution and blaming him for Sasuke's defection, while the shinobi side was a little less vocal in their opinions. You could tell they were a little weary about having the notorious S-ranked criminal back in their ranks. Everyone seemed to settle down after Tsunade explained the seal Naruto had been forced to place on Itachi, but a few were still a little restless. Naruto figured that after Kurenai's defeat at the hands of Itachi 3 years prior, that there could still be a little bit of tension between the two, especially since he had arranged for Itachi to help train her. Asking Yugao to stay close for the first little bit had him feel confident that Kurenai wouldn't say or do anything stupid. Finishing up his preparations for Kurenai's morning training, Naruto waited patiently for Yugao to finish showing Kurenai around, before bringing her to the training ground. Perched on top one of the branches above Naruto, Itachi also waited. Even a genius Uchiha would have to be wary of the unstoppable force known as feminine fury. "Are you sure asking me to help Kurenai was the smartest thing to do, Naruto-kun?" Itachi asked, glancing down at the young blonde. "Honestly, I'm not sure. This could blow up in my face, but I'm not going to explain why you are back and what transpired all those years ago without your permission. Maybe in a few weeks when everyone is a little more accustomed to your return, we can discuss with a few of the Junin sensei why everything happened the night of the massacre," Naruto explained. "She is close with Yugao-chan, so she is good in my books even though I may not know her very well yet." "I see," Itachi replied, before closing his eyes and resting his head against the trunk of the tree, leaving Naruto to his own thoughts. A few minutes later, Kurenai and Yugao made their way into the training ground, chatting idly about the estate and everything Kurenai had seen so far. Noticing their arrival, Naruto stood and gradually made his way over to them. "Hello Kurenai-san, I'm happy that you actually considered doing this," Naruto said. "Yugao-chan has told me a lot about the skills you have picked up over the years. After hearing everything she had to say, I have to say I'm honored that you want to help me," Kurenai replied with a small smile. "Don't mention it, Kurenai-san. Any friend of Yugao-chan's is a friend of mine. Today is going to be more of a testing day. I will be testing your strength, stamina, and chakra levels for a third of the day. When we are done, Yugao-chan will take over and start teaching you about Kenjutsu." Naruto paused, before Itachi appeared behind him, and due to the fact that neither I, nor Yugao, have much experience in Genjutsu, I have gotten the best Genjutsu user I know to help you out in that department. Hello again, Kurenai-san. Itachi said with a slight bow, ignoring the glare Kurenai was aiming at the back of his head. Think of this as an apology for that fight we had 3 years ago. As he stated, Naruto has asked me to help you with Genjutsu. I look forward to helping you. This is for the best, Kurenai-san. No one else I know has the same expertise in Genjutsu as Itachi does. And keep in mind, if it looks like Itachi means you or anyone else any harm, I can end his life without having to lift a finger. Naruto explained, somewhat calming Kurenai down, although she still looked a little weary around the older Uchiha. Naruto would have to change that, however he would not tell her anything without Itachi's consent. I came here for training. If Itachi-san can help improve my Genjutsu, then I guess I have no choice. Kurenai said with a sigh, earning a smile from both Naruto and Yugao. Alright then, Naruto said, before gaining a serious expression, welcome to hell Kurenai-san. For the next 2 weeks you will do nothing aside from eat, sleep, and train. You will be here early in the morning, and will not leave until late at night. You are free to stop the training at any time if you feel you cannot handle it. If you do this however, I will not give you a second chance, neither will Yugao, or Itachi. He knew it was harsh, but he had to get his point across. The next 2 weeks would be hell for anyone who was not accustomed to not only an ANBU level training regime, but also Naruto's personal training schedule, and so far only Yugao knew how much Naruto pushed himself. Looking around, Kurenai noticed that both Itachi and Yugao had the same serious looks that Naruto held, letting her know that they were serious. If she ed up, they wouldn't extend the invitation a second time. Alright, I'm ready. -9 hours later, private hot springs of the Uzumaki estate. Pain. If one word could describe what Kurenai was feeling right now, that would be it. After her introduction earlier this morning, Naruto had put her through the ringer in a 2-hour physical workout, followed by a full hour of light sparring on one of the ponds located on his training field. She was then handed off to Yugao, who also put her through a light sparring session, trying to gauge her skills with Kenjutsu, but having never used a sword in actual combat before, her skills were next to none. After that, Yugao had gone into an explanation of the basic of wielding a sword, helping her through the motions, before giving her a few books on the basic styles of Kenjutsu and sending her off to Itachi. Most of her time spent with Itachi had been theory, having him explain the different types of Genjutsu he knew and the amount of chakra required to cast each one. So, how was your first day? Kurenai was lost so deep in her thoughts that she hadn't even realized Yugao had made her way into the hot spring and was currently sitting beside her. It was good, Kurenai started. You and Naruto sure put me through the ringer this morning. I don't think I've ever had a workout that strenuous before in my life. I remember the first time Naruto ever helped me in stamina and strength training. At that time though, I was more advanced than you are, and the training he made me do was way worse. Yugao replied, laughing slightly at the look of horror that crossed her friend's face. Don't worry though, Naruto-kun is going to be taking your training at a slower pace. He will decide when you are ready for the next stage. What if I'm not ready by the time the 2 weeks is up? Kurenai asked. If you last 2 weeks, Naruto-kun will probably ask you to keep training. 2 weeks is not enough time for even him to pass on a lot of his knowledge. You are free to turn it down if you want, but the option for further training will remain, as long as you last this first 2 weeks. Yugao replied, earning a slight nod from her friend. Yugao-chan. Kurenai stated. What is it Kurenai-chan? Do you trust Itachi? I mean, he killed his whole clan aside from Sasuke. How could Tsunade-sama allow someone like that back into the village? Kurenai asked. There are things about that night that you don't know. Itachi came back on his own free will, and swore his loyalty to not only Naruto but Konoha as well. Please do not ask for more information, as it is not my place to tell. Give it time, Kurenai, and you will eventually trust Itachi the same way Naruto-kun and I do. Yugao said. Alright, Kurenai. Yugao said, this time earning the ruby-eyed beauty's attention. Have you thought about what we talked about on our last mission? Gaining a slight red tinge to her cheeks, Kurenai nodded slightly. Not much, but I have given it thought. Good. I would advise using these next 2 weeks to get to know Naruto-kun better. This may be one of the best chances you will have to get to know him. Yugao said, before getting out of the water, leaving Kurenai to her own thoughts. With Naruto. After leaving Kurenai with Yugao earlier in the afternoon, the young Uzumaki clan head had gone out in search of Jiraiya to see if the old seal master had any advice for Naruto's current dilemma of combining his parents' sealing methods. Unfortunately for Naruto, Jiraiya had been a dead end, telling Naruto that after Minato had become Hokage, he too had tried to combine the two clans' methods, but nothing ever came from it. Jiraiya had said that the Uzumaki clan's seals had been based more primarily in the art of sealing things, like biju, into other objects, whereas the Namikaze seals were primarily defensive seals, like the ones placed around the estate. He suggested just the seals that had already been created by both clans alone, and instead of focusing on seals that had already been created, to just take ideas and methods from each clan and try to create his own. To Jiraiya's knowledge, Naruto was the only person to have been born with both Uzumaki and Namikaze DNA, so why not just start his own method of sealing while taking ideas from both old ones? Naruto had agreed with the old pervert's reasoning at first, but still said he was going to try and find a way to merge the old seals together. After that, Naruto and Jiraiya sparred a bit before agreeing to meet up again later and discuss information on the Akatsuki. And it currently was later, so we find both the ex-ANBU and Toad Sanin sitting in the back corner of one of the many shinobi bars located around Konoha, as well as Itachi, who had come along at Jiraiya's request. So, Konan and Nagato are both part of the Akatsuki, huh? Jiraiya mused as he poured himself a cup of sake. It would look like it, although as Konan takes my advice she may not be a part of the Akatsuki for much longer. I want you to promise me something, Jiraiya-sensei. Do not go looking for Nagato in AIM, not without backup, and not without more intel on the Rinnegan. Naruto said, surprising the Sanin at his use of sensei, showing him that he was serious. I would have to agree with Naruto-kun, Jiraiya-sama. Itachi cut in, perhaps talking to the Toad sages of Mount Myoboku will help. If not, then we could hope that Konan does take Naruto's advice, and seeks us out. All I know is that there are 6 different peens, known as the 6 paths of pain, and Nagato controls them from somewhere in AIM. I can assume that each path has a different power. What those are, however, I do not know. I see. Alright, brat, I promise I won't go looking for answers by myself. Jiraiya said, what else can you tell me about the organization, Itachi? From that point, Naruto blocked bits and pieces of the conversation out. Having already heard all of it during the debriefing with Tsunade, he knew what Itachi had to say. I see, with you out of the Akatsuki, Kisame will be working by himself. Jiraiya asked. Most likely, their only other option that I could see happening would be him working with Konan. She is usually with pain, but he doesn't go out in search of Jinchuriki like the rest. Kisame is powerful enough to take most Jinchuriki by himself, especially since his sword Samahata eats chakra. But since Kisame and I worked together for a long time, I wouldn't put it past Pain or even Toby to think Kisame knew of my true intentions, and would pair him with Konan to keep a close eye on him. Itachi replied, earning a nod from Jiraiya. From the sounds of it, Kisame, and the 2 you called, the zombie brothers, are the main pawns that we need to watch out for. Sasori and Deidara don't seem to be as much of a threat, and while Hidan doesn't seem to be a very strong fighter, the fact that he cannot die makes him a problem. Information from around my spy network, Kakuzu is known to have fought the first Hokage, leaving me to believe he is around 100 years old. He has the ability to steal a person's heart, and use it as his own, which would explain how he has managed to survive for this long. It is also believed that he has control over all the elements, which could be connected to the fact that he is able to steal someone else's heart. Jiraiya said, earning a nod from Itachi. That is what I've heard from others within the Akatsuki as well. Kakuzu is the only one in the Akatsuki to have been recruited by Pain personally. At first Kakuzu declined, and tried to fight Pain, but Pain defeated him easily, making him change his mind about joining. I'm not too sure of Hidan's abilities. I know he uses a large, three-bladed scythe, and sacrifices his enemies to his Lord Jashin, but he was recruited by Orochimaru and Kakuzu. Deidara is a long-range fighter, who relies on explosive clay he molds within his mouth. I was the one to recruit him and he should be one of the easiest members to defeat. Itachi replied, I see, a lot of this is new to me. I will make sure to let my spy network know to keep an eye out for any other Akatsuki movement. They should be done preparing to capture the Jinchuriki now. Jiraiya said, before bidding the two good night, and leaving to do his own thing. 2 weeks later. The last 2 weeks had gone by very slowly for one genjutsu specialist named Kurenai. After the first few days she thought she had gotten used to the early hours, Naruto's insane physical training, the slight cuts and bruises left by Yugao, and the mental exhaustion at the end of her sessions with Itachi, but she had been wrong. Naruto had upped both the physical training, as well as chakra exercises. Yugao had started to teach her more advanced katas with a wide variety of different swords, from ninjutsu to katanas, and Itachi had started to teach her the genjutsu, instead of just going over the theory for them. She couldn't complain though. Her physical prowess had grown in leaps and bounds, and her chakra capacity had grown fairly well at the same time. She had the opportunity to learn about many different kinds of weapons, and figure out which one she felt most comfortable using, and it turned out that she was most comfortable while using a katana. Itachi had also been able to teach her 3 new genjutsu, and had promised to teach her more if she wanted more training. Her opinion of Itachi had changed a fair amount over the past 2 weeks, after working closely with him, and seeing how he interacted with not only Naruto and Yugao, but with Kakashi who had stopped in randomly a few times. She had decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. That had not gone unnoticed by any of her 3 training partners, and they had agreed to talk to her about Itachi soon. She also took Yugao's advice, and had spent whatever free time she could talking and getting to know Naruto better. Her heart fluttered slightly as she remembered how Naruto had pretty much forced her to allow him to take her shopping for a weapon after learning what she had taken a liking to. At first she had insisted on getting a cheap sword, but Naruto had told her to put it back, and told her that buying cheap combat gear would only get her killed. He took her to the shop where he had purchased his swords during his time in ANBU, and had her look around. She had eventually chosen a katana with a 17-inch blade. It has a beautiful white and blue handle with a silver star-shaped guard, and a white sheath that had a blue dragon wrapped around it. After glancing at the price tag she had put it back, hoping Naruto hadn't seen her take a look at it. Unfortunately for her he had, and had then insisted that he buy it for her. Although he had somewhat forced her, she had still never had any man buy her something so exquisite, let alone take her shopping. She was currently on the last stretch of road leading to the Uzumaki estate when she saw a few ANBU enter Naruto's estate. Then shortly after Naruto, Yugao, and Itachi all came out and started heading towards the Hokage Tower. Naruto-kun, she yelled, missing the honorific she had added to the end of his name. Turning at the sound of his name, and filing the use of the honorific away for later reference, Naruto spotted Kurenai jogging towards them. Yes, Kurenai-san, Naruto asked. Where are you 3 going? Today is supposed to be my last training day, isn't it? Kurenai asked as she stopped in front of the trio. It was yes, but something important has come up and Tsunade has asked for my assistance. Your 2-week training session if complete Kurenai, I am impressed that you managed to complete it, and am proud of the amount that you have grown. Naruto said, earning a slight blush from the red-eyed beauty. Thank you. Kurenai said. What now though? What do you mean? Naruto asked. There is so much more for me to improve on. Itachi has already agreed to helping me train more in Genjutsu, but what about you and Yugao? Will you still train me if you have the time? Kurenai asked, making Naruto glance at Itachi quickly before shrugging his shoulders. You survived the 2-week training period that I set up for you. The training from this point will be harder. If you want to train, you are free to come and go as you please. I have already made it so that you can enter my estate whenever you choose. We have made training scrolls for you and set them up in my library for you to take a look at whenever you please. I can oversee your training personally whenever I am not away on a mission, and I'm sure Yugao-chan would be happy to keep training you as well. Naruto said, earning a smile and a nod from Yugao as well. Thank you. Kurenai said with a slight bow, earning a sheepish grin from Naruto. Don't mention it. Any friend of Yugao-chan is a friend of mine. He replied. We should go, Naruto-kun. Yugao said, earning the blonde's attention. From what the ANBU told us, this mission is fairly important. Right, Naruto said, before turning back to Kurenai one last time. Please come to my estate when we return from this mission. There is a lot that Itachi wants to talk to you about. Nodding her head, Kurenai glanced at Itachi questioningly, but before she could ask, the trio disappeared, leaving Kurenai alone in the street. Sighing to herself, she figured she would go look for her old team and see what they had been up to over the past 2 weeks. In Tsunade's office, you called for a Tsunade-sama. Naruto said as he entered the room, followed by Itachi and Yugao. Yes, I did. Tell me, did you know that there is a surviving Uzumaki clan member? Tsunade asked, watching as Naruto's eyes grew wide. I'll take that as a no. Jiraiya's spy network has learned that you are not the last Uzumaki. There is one left, currently working for my old teammate Orochimaru. Excuse me, I'm sure that you heard me the first time, Naruto. Tsunade said, there is another Uzumaki, currently working for Orochimaru at one of his hideouts located off the coast of Nami no Kuni. At this moment we are unsure of her relation to you, but we do know that you two share the same blood. And as an Uzumaki, you want me to go there and convince her to betray Orochimaru, don't you? That's why you're telling me all of this. Naruto replied, getting a good feel for the direction in which this conversation was heading. Basically yes, we feel that it would be our best shot of learning what the snake has been up to. Reports received from Jiraiya's spy network indicate she is strictly loyal to Orochimaru. We hope that sending someone who is related to her will cause her to rethink her allegiance. I want you, along with Itachi and Yugao, to lead 2 other Jonin squads and infiltrate the facility, find Karen, and convince her to come back with you, or take her by force. Tsunade said. 2 full Jonin squads including the 3 of us? Naruto inquired. Sounds like this is a lot more than a simple capture mission. Well, it seems that your years in ANBU have made you smarter, Naruto. Yes, this is more than a simple capture mission. While your mission will primarily be to capture Karen, the other 2 squads will work on destroying the base, and salvaging whatever might give us hints as to what Orochimaru is doing. After you have successfully retrieved Karen, I want you to wipe the base. Between Naruto and Itachi there is enough firepower to level the entire thing. Yugao felt slightly left out at the apparent dismissal of her skills. A reassuring squeeze of her shoulder from Naruto was enough to bring her out of her funk though. We both know that your specialty is Kenjutsu, Yugao-chan. Itachi and I are better equipped in the destructive jutsu category. Tsunade-sama isn't knocking your skill, you're the best Kenjutsu user I know. Naruto said with a proud smile, causing his girlfriend to smile back slightly. Thank you, Naruto-kun. The 2 other squads have already been briefed of their mission and have left to gather their things. Tsunade said, handing Naruto a small piece of paper. These are the coordinates to the meeting place a few miles west of the base. You will have to take a boat to get to the island, but other than that it's fairly easy to get there. Any word on what kind of resistance we should encounter there? Naruto asked. Other than a few of Orochimaru's scientists, there was no word of anyone else being there, but personally I would prepare for running into Orochimaru himself, or at least Sasuke and Kabuto. That's fair. Better to be safe than sorry. Naruto said, earning a nod from everyone present. Anything else? No. Tsunade replied. You three are free to go and prepare for your mission. Leave as soon as you can. Hi, Hokage-sama, the three said before disappearing in a swirl of leaves to get ready. Outside the Uzumaki compound, the group arrived in a swirl of leaves and were surprised to see Kurenai standing outside the gate, looking somewhat embarrassed. Kurenai-chan, what are you still doing here? Yugao asked. Well, I kinda forgot some things inside. I didn't think it would be appropriate for me to just go in when no one is here. She replied. Well, that's very professional of you, Kurenai-chan. Naruto said jokingly, making her feel slightly more embarrassed. But really, it's not a big problem, Kurenai-chan. You're a friend to all three of us and are free to come and go as you please. Thank you, Naruto-kun. She replied, earning a short nod from the man. I'm not sure how long this mission will take, should be home no longer than a week. You're free to come and use the training grounds and library as you see fit. Naruto said. When we get back, your personal training with the three of us will return to its normal schedule though. Again she nodded and thanked the three, before they went their separate ways. It didn't take the three long to gather their things for their upcoming mission. During his time in ANBU, Naruto had started keeping a lot of basic supplies inside sealing scrolls, a habit that Yugao soon found herself doing as well. They met at the front gate to Naruto's clan compound, and after a quick check of what supplies they had, and a quick, be safe, and hug from Kurenai that left Naruto with a small blush, the team of three set off to the rendezvous point. Later the next afternoon, being on a team with one other S-ranked shinobi, and a high A-ranked one had its advantages as the three had managed to keep a fairly fast pace through the previous day and a half of travel. The three now found themselves stopped at a small creek a few miles away from the rendezvous point. Having stopped to refill their canteens with water, as well as grab a bite to eat, the three decided that it would be a good idea to form some sort of game plan for the following raid. So, from what we know, there should be two smaller entrances here and here, while the main entrance is located here. Said Naruto, pointing to specific areas on a crudely drawn map. I think our best course of action would be to have Squad A enter at the eastern entrance, while Squad B enters the northern one. The three of us will enter the main entrance on the south side of the base. After we get inside, I want each of us to make 2 Kage Bunshin, and split up and look for Karen. While looking for Karen, we will also be aiding the other 2 groups in securing documents related to Orochimaru, Sasuke, and Kabuto. If either group of clones find Karen before we do, they will be able to dispel themselves and alert us to her location. Naruto explained, earning a nod from the 2 other members of his group. What if we run into Orochimaru, Naruto-kun? Yugao asked, or even Sasuke, or Kabuto. If we run into Orochimaru, either Itachi or myself will deal with him. If we run into Orochimaru and Sasuke, Itachi can handle his little brother while you and I fight with Orochimaru. Naruto said, if that's the case though, I do not want you taking any unnecessary risks. You are strong, Yugao-chan, but someone like Orochimaru is still out of your league, so just back me up, like old times. Of course, Naruto-kun. And, Kami forbid, we run into all 3 of them here. The plan remains the same, except Yugao will fight Kabuto. Naruto said, once again earning a nod from his 2 teammates. With a plan set in motion, the 3 of them continued on their way to the rendezvous point. Not taking them long at all to get there, they met up with the 2 other teams and went over the plan for the raid. After that, the 3 squads split up and got into position. After getting radio confirmation that all squads were in position, Naruto pulled out his sword and coated it with wind chakra before slashing the door 3 times, creating a small entrance as a piece of the door fell forward. Alright, you guys know the plan. Extract the Uzumaki by any means necessary before aiding the other teams with looting the base. Treat all unknowns as hostile, and only kill if you have to. Naruto said, earning a nod from his teammates. The 3 of them created 2 shadow clones before getting paired into groups and entering the base. Inside the base, the group of 3 carefully made their way through the base, going room from room to room with little to no resistance, taking note of anything that looked important for the second part of their mission. The group eventually came to a large open room that was filled with what appeared to be cages covered with some sort of dark material, signaling for the others to stop. Naruto created a clone and had it enter the room. Sure enough, the moment the clone got close to one of the crates, a large deformed hand shot out and grabbed the clone around the neck, squeezing till the clone popped out of existence. Quite the grip, must be something Orochimaru cooked up in a test tube somewhere. Naruto said, rubbing the area where the clone had been grabbed. He was cut from his thoughts though when a loud voice appeared over the speaker. Well, if it isn't Naruto-kun, what a pleasure seeing you here. Said an eerie voice, I wonder what you came here for. Could it be for Sasuke-kun? No, that couldn't be it, but I'm sure he would be thrilled to learn that you know the whereabouts of Itachi. I'm sure that he will be coming for you very soon. It couldn't be for knowledge, otherwise you would be ransacking the place like those other 2 squads are doing. Ah, that's right. I've got an Uzumaki kept here working for me. She won't be for much longer if I have anything to say about it, Orochimaru. Naruto said, causing the man to laugh. We will see, she seems to be quite loyal to Sasuke-kun. Orochimaru said, causing Naruto to growl lightly. The Uzumaki treasure family. She may not know me, but the same Uzumaki blood that flows through her veins also flows through mine, and the bond of family will always be the strongest one. Naruto shouted. Like I said, we will have to see. Orochimaru replied. I grow boring of this conversation. Karen is a little further past this room. Let us see just how strong a bond the Uzumaki blood makes, if you live to see her, that is. Kill them. The moment Orochimaru stopped talking, the room burst into action as deformed creatures broke free of their cages. Do you like them? Orochimaru asked. This is what progress looks like. Each one of these things used to be human. They probably had a wife, kids perhaps, but no more. This is what happens when a host cannot control the power of a cursed mark. Well, it's either this or they die, but the fact remains that each of these is a failure. They can no longer tell right from wrong, friend from foe. I would honestly be surprised if they could even think for themselves. The only things I know for certain are that they feed off the hatred of my mark, and can no longer control their own power. Naruto's eyes widened slightly as one of the hulking beasts charged at him with impressive speed. Getting over his surprise quickly, Naruto sidestepped out of the way before drawing his sword and aiming a slice at the creature's neck. The creature bent back, narrowly avoiding Naruto's strike before it found itself face to face with another Naruto, sword aimed to plunge through its skull. Being in the position it was in, the beast was unable to dodge again as the clone's sword met its mark and drove itself straight through the eye socket into the stone floor below it. The beast struggled slightly before going limp and sliding down the blade, dead. That wasn't so bad, Naruto said as his clone dispelled. I will admit that its speed surprised me somewhat. You wouldn't expect something like that to move as fast as it did. I haven't been sitting on my for the past 3 years though. You'll have to do better than that to kill the 3 of us. Clearly, Orochimaru replied, somewhat displeased that his experiment had been killed quite easily. It's a shame then, that is probably the max power any of these experiments will show. What they apparently lack in power, they certainly make up for in numbers though. Do you honestly believe that the 3 of you will be able to kill all of them? You seem to forget just who you are talking to, you bastard. Naruto said, making a familiar hand sign as 10 clones popped into existence. You better tell Sasuke to come at us with intent to kill, because I decided a long time ago that I will no longer hold back against him. The room burst into action as Naruto finished his little speech. Each of the clones became a blur of movement as they started to attack Orochimaru's experiments. The real Naruto, along with Itachi and Yugao, also became nothing but a blur as they moved from creature to creature, creating a trail of corpses in their wake. With Naruto, Naruto knew that showing Orochimaru the true extent of his abilities was a bad idea, so he decided to keep his fighting to basic taijutsu and kenjutsu. Ducking under what would have certainly been a powerful punch, Naruto put both hands on the hilt of his blade as he drove it up towards the sky, leaving a thin red line before the beast in front of him split in two. Bending forward as another punch came from behind him, he flipped himself into a handstand and started to rotate, kicking any creatures in his vicinity away. After making a little bit of space for himself, he flipped back onto his feet before using the flat of his blade to block a kick aimed at his midsection. Pushing the creature off him, Naruto drove his shoulder into the beast's abdomen, before following up with a wide arcing slice of his sword, cutting its jugular. Naruto turned as the creature fell back, choking to death on its own blood, and sidestepped another punch before taking out a kunai and driving it into another experiment's skull. Glancing over towards Itachi and Yugao, Naruto noticed the two of them were having an even easier time than he was. Not having to hold back had its perks, I suppose. His eyes bulged as a creature's fist impacted his stomach, sending him careening into a nearby wall. Never take your eyes off an opponent, dumbass, he said to himself as he picked himself out of the small indent he left. That's definitely gonna leave a mark. Alright, which one of us hit me? The four experiments in front of him looked at each other, before looking back at Naruto and charging him all at once. Shoulda figured you wouldn't understand me, Naruto said, sidestepping the first and letting it run head first into the wall behind him. The second creature to reach him had a much harsher fate, getting its arm sliced off as it tried to punch Naruto back into the wall. The creature reared back, howling in pain and holding the stump that used to be his arm. Quit your bitching, Naruto said as he drove his sword into the monster's heart. This is really starting to annoy me. Naruto blocked another kick aimed for his midsection before trying to pull his sword out of the experiment he had just killed. Unfortunately for him, it was stuck. Planting his left foot on the ground, Naruto released his sword before sending a chakra-enhanced roundhouse kick to the third creature's throat, effectively crushing its windpipe. And then there was one, Naruto said, turning as he finally managed to dislodge his sword. Naruto's blue eyes stared back at the lifeless black ones of the beast he had sidestepped earlier. The sounds of combat in the background slowly started to fade as Naruto's clones, along with Yugao and Itachi, made short work of the remaining experiments. Naruto noticed something then, something that most shinobi might miss while being faced with this situation. Hesitation, not from himself, but from the beast in front of him. Why you must stop Orochimaru? The creature spoke. The one that you seek, helped him create although she was, more sful. Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly at that. He certainly hoped that his relative Karen, as Orochimaru had called her, wasn't experimenting on humans willingly. Don't worry, Naruto spoke. I plan on stopping Orochimaru, probably not today, but I will certainly kill him given the chance. I'm sorry that this has happened to you, may you find peace in the afterlife. Thank you. Naruto charged the creature, coating the blade of his sword with wind chakra as he sliced horizontally through the beast's midsection, cutting it cleanly in two. He took a moment to clean his blade, sending one last glance towards his final kill, before sheathing his blade and meeting with Itachi and Yugao at the other end of the room. Are you guys alright? Naruto asked as he approached his teammates. I'm fine, thank you. Itachi replied. Me too, Naruto-kun. Yugao replied with a smile. What about you? I saw you take a hit that lodged you in a wall somewhat. Meh, I've had worse. Naruto said. There will probably be some bruising, maybe a bit of swelling, nothing major. I'll be 100% by tomorrow at the latest. Yugao nodded, knowing that what Naruto said was true. She had seen him bounce back from worse in the past, way worse. Perks of having the Kyuubi sealed inside you, I guess. Do either of you sense anything coming from the next few rooms? Naruto asked. Nope. Yugao replied. The only other chakra source aside from our own is located 2 rooms down from here. Alright. Keep your guard up, just in case. With Orochimaru. Interesting. Very interesting. Orochimaru said to himself. What is? Orochimaru turned his head towards the sound of the voice, finding a young silver-haired man with glasses standing in the doorway. We've had a, shall we say, incident. Yes, an incident, at our research base near Nami no Kuni. It seems that young Naruto-kun continues to be a thorn in my side. Orochimaru replied, causing the man to look at him in confusion. How so, Orochimaru-sama? The man asked. Well, first of all, he seems to have managed to convince Itachi Uchiha to return to Konoha. Orochimaru replied, causing the man's eyes to widen slightly. Secondly, he seems to have quite a mastery over the art of Kenjutsu, and while he didn't show much in terms of jutsu knowledge, I would find it unwise to think his other skills haven't improved just as much. What would you like me to do? Set the base to self-destruct? The man asked. No, I wouldn't go that far, Kabuto-kun. Orochimaru said, causing Kabuto to bow slightly. There is nothing there that details what we are planning on doing. Let them think they have won this round, things will be much sweeter that way. The computer screen in front of Orochimaru changed to a setting much like where Naruto's group was. The only difference was the room was much larger, and held many more cages. Yes, this was a good test of their strength. And now we know we need to increase the curse mark even further. Orochimaru said, chuckling darkly as scientists brought more cages into the room. Back with Naruto, the group of 3 had found themselves standing in front of a metal door, sensing a small amount of chakra coming from behind it. Ready? Naruto asked, causing his 2 teammates to nod. Remember, no matter what, she is not to be killed. We will ask her to come with us willingly. If she refuses, we will knock her out and carry her back. They opened the door and walked into the room. Not sensing any immediate danger, Naruto walked in front of the others, taking in his surroundings as he did so. The room itself was not very large, no bigger than the bedroom in his old apartment. The walls were lined with what appeared to be scientific research detailing chemical formulas for Kami knows what. At the far end of the room there was a large desk lined with monitors that showed specific areas around Orochimaru's base, as well as empty cups of instant ramen. Must be an Uzumaki thing, Naruto thought to himself with a sweat drop. Sending a playful glare towards Yugao as she noticed the ramen cups and giggled. Walking around the desk, the 3 shinobi came upon what appeared to be a mattress on the floor. On top of the mattress was a blanket, a very uneven, clumpy blanket, that had a small tuft of crimson hair sticking out from underneath it. Please don't make this any harder than it has to be, Karen. Naruto said, causing the lump to eat slightly. A slight shuffling sound came from under the blanket before a red-headed girl, not much older than Naruto himself, crawled out from under the blanket and stood in front of the trio of deadly shinobi. How do you know my name? Karen asked. Orochimaru let it slip when he figured a room full of failed curse mark experiments would be enough to kill us. Naruto replied casually. What are you here for then? Karen asked again. This base has nothing of value, Orochimaru doesn't even come here anymore. The most you'll find are research notes and maybe some locations of other bases, but that's it. Well, while our secondary mission is to raid the place and take all things relating to Orochimaru back to Konoha with us, the primary mission was you. Naruto replied. Why me? Aside from the fact that you have been working with Orochimaru for quite some time and probably hold a decent amount of information about him, you are an Uzumaki. Naruto said, causing Karen's eyes to widen. How do you know that? It's quite simple really, I'm also an Uzumaki. Naruto said, causing Karen to gasp. Although, to be quite fair, the crimson hair and somewhat pale skin is a dead giveaway as well. Golden chains erupted from around Karen as they shot towards Naruto, wrapping around him and bringing him back towards her. Naruto shot a glance towards Itachi and Yugao and sent them a clear message. I got this. Karen stopped Naruto a few feet away from her, before gaining a calculative look in her eye. She walked around him, eyeing him like a piece of meat before she lunged at Naruto with a happy cry, wrapping him in a warm hug. The action surprised Naruto somewhat, along with Yugao and Itachi. Sure, it must be nice to find out you have a family after living by yourself for so long, but they figured she would have been a little more cautious after working under Orochimaru for so long. Naruto regained his composure quickly and awkwardly wrapped his arms around the red-headed girl. Karen, Naruto said, your chakra, it's so warm. Like the sun, she exclaimed happily, causing Naruto to smile slightly. The smile turned into a small frown though as she pushed him away. Looking into her eyes, he saw that she was having some form of internal conflict. But what about Sasuke-kun? We can't just leave him, can we? Of course we can, we have a family now. But no, Sasuke-kun is so cool, she said to herself, causing the three other occupants of the room to sweat drop. She is way worse than how Sakura-chan and Ino used to be, combined. He said with a sigh, before gaining a slightly mischievous glint in his eyes. Hey Karen. Yes, I have another Uchiha with me, Sasuke's older brother to be precise. Naruto explained, causing Karen to stop her internal monologue and look behind him to the other occupants of the room. She smiled perversely as her eyes landed on Itachi, an action that he caught. Having seen that look 1,000 times before at the academy, Itachi began to back away, but was too slow as another set of golden chains exploded from behind Karen and sped towards him. Yugao looked on, confused, as Itachi was then dragged towards a giggling Karen, trying his hardest to break free. I think I'll wait outside, Yugao said before stepping out of the room. Naruto shrugged and turned towards Karen, who was now face to face with a sweating Itachi, and chuckled as she lunged at him, wrapping him in a hug much like she had with Naruto moments before. You are so much cooler than Sasuke-kun, Karen all but squealed as she tried to hug the life out of Itachi. So, are you willing to come with me? No, with us, back to Konoha? Naruto asked. You can live with me in the clan's estate, and since you would technically be my prisoner, the council will have no say over what to do with you. Hell, Tsunade-sama may even let you join the shinobi corps at some point. If you want to, that is. I'm still not sure. What if Orochimaru comes for me? Both Itachi and Yugao-chan live with me. You will be safe from practically anyone who wants to find you. Naruto replied. And besides, Konoha is home to 2 of the Sannin, as well as shinobi like Sharingan no Kakashi and Asuma Sarutobi, a man who once served as the daimyo's personal guard. Okay, I'll come with you, Karen said. Just let me grab a few things and I'll be good to go. Of course. Oh, since I was lead scientist of this base, Orochimaru trusted me with all his notes and anything else pertaining to the cursed seal. I can seal that away and bring it with me as well if you'd like. That would be great, Karen, thanks. Naruto said. Oh, by the way. What is it? Did you experiment on these people willingly? Naruto asked, causing Karen to drop her head slightly. No, I didn't, Karen replied. Orochimaru told me that he knew the whereabouts of some other Uzumaki and promised me that he would bring them to me if I helped him. I'm not sure if there are any Uzumaki other than the 2 of us, Karen. Naruto started. But I promise you, if we find out that Orochimaru is keeping other Uzumaki from us, I will find them, and bring them back to Konoha with me. We can all live as a family again. Back in Konoha, Hokage's office. Tsunade-sama, we have a problem. What is it, Shuzine? We just finished going over Itachi's full report on the Akatsuki. We have learned that they are going to be targeting the Cage soon. Shizune said, causing Tsunade's eyes to widen slightly. Shit, Tsunade said, a calculating look coming across her face. Get me Kakashi and Guy, along with their teams. We will send them to Suna to warn the Cage about the incoming threat. Also, send a report to the gate guards and get them to send me Naruto immediately after he returns. Are you sure sending Naruto would be such a good idea? Itachi's report said that the two assigned to retrieving the Cage aren't the strongest in the group, but he also stated that the teams may have changed. What if? Enough, Shizune. Tsunade said. I can see that you care for Naruto deeply, but we are shinobi. We have to put our personal feelings aside sometimes. I see Naruto as a son I never had, and it scares me to send him into something like this even though I know how much he has grown in the past 3 years. Sending Naruto and Itachi to face off against the Akatsuki would be our best bet at keeping the Cage alive since Itachi has knowledge on most of their members. Hi, Suan-sama, Shizune said, turning to leave before Tsunade stopped her once again. If you are that worried about him, you should tell him how you really feel. Being a shinobi is dangerous and none of us are guaranteed another day. With that being said, Tsunade returned to her paperwork, leaving Shizune to her own thoughts as she sent someone to track down Kakashi and Guy. It was true that Shizune's sisterly feelings had started to turn into something more, especially after the growth Naruto had gone through these past few years. It was hard to see him as a kid anymore. The only question was, would he be able to return her feelings? Back with Naruto, the next day, after getting Karen out of the compound, Naruto sent his clones in to go over the rooms they had inspected during their mission, gathering anything relating to Orochimaru. The other teams had run into little resistance during their descent into Orochimaru's base, and had joined up and helped Naruto's clones after they had finished. Scouring the entire base from top to bottom had taken the 3 teams a little over a day to complete, and they now found themselves ready to return home. Seeing that everyone was ready, Naruto created a few more clones, sending them inside the base to set explosive notes at critical points around the base. After the last clone had dispelled, Naruto channeled his chakra and set the tags off, watching as the base went up in a fiery inferno. Naruto sent another silent prayer for anyone who had been involved in Orochimaru's research, before signaling the group that it was time to leave, disappearing into the foliage of the surrounding trees. Naruto was unable to shake the uneasy feeling that formed in the pit of his stomach. Something was going on back home, and he was anxious to find out what it was.